Welcome back to the doubleheader of triathlon on the European Triathlon Cup. And we've moved east. We're now in the Czech Republic. I think this is the first race we've had on the European Cup in the Czech Republic. And we're at Brno. Brno is the second largest city in the Czech Republic with just over 400,000 people living in here. And they really do have some great buildings, some great culture of the past. It's, for me, I thought it was the town, the city of churches. I've never seen so many churches. So it's the standard distance again, 1500 meter swim, 40 kilometer bike, and a 10 kilometer run. And this is perhaps the Czech favorite, Thomas Kocher, and he said this autumn is the worst of autumns for my career, and he'd like to do the best he can today. And then they asked him about the weather, and he said, yeah, that's right, it's not very nice, and you have to be in good condition, especially in the cold weather here. And what position will you be satisfied? And he says 6. This is Jan Rahula, the University World Champion earlier this year. And he said, what do you have to do today? And he said, I'm not sure, but I have to finish in the very first few places well. And he says, what about the weather? Can you cope with it? And he said, I'll see, it will depend. Well, it's not very nice. It's cold, wet and miserable. And this is the women's start. They've been suitably given the pink caps. And looking out for, well, of course, Nancy Kemp's here, as is, Kathleen Schmidt from Belgium returns, both good swimmers. And in fact, a few years ago, they used to swim together, or against each other. Of course, Schmidt is Belgian. And the men go just a few minutes after the women. Hopefully the timings are such that they won't get mixed up, because there are 2 laps of the swim course, 2 750-meter triangular laps. And as the men go out, the women should be on the way back of the first lap. So it looks like Alexander Metzloff leads for the men. Also in there is Thomas Kocher, as is Stefan Digne. Of course, we saw him having that good race in Geneva. Eric van der Linden is also racing here, as is Dennis Loos. Dennis Loos returns after missing Geneva. I did mention it, he was there, but he wasn't actually racing there. Back with the women. It looks as though it's Kathleen Schmidt, and Nancy Kemp is also up there, as is Julia Kompanec, the Russian athlete, and Nicholas Pecci. Of course, had that great swim with Kemp in Geneva. But it's still Alexander Metzloff leading for the men, as the women now exit the water. It's Kathleen Schmidt, the Belgian national swimmer, coming out of the water. I'm looking forward to seeing her sister. I understand her sister's just started triathlon, and she's a better swimmer and a better triathlete than Kathleen. That's what Kathleen told me, at any rate. But we'll see. 19 minutes and 39 seconds. 1500-meter swim by Kathleen Schmidt. Look at those shoulders. She really is built like a swimmer, isn't she? Second is Julia Kompanec, 1943. That's Nicola Pecci from Hungary, 1945. And the ETU leader, Nancy Kemp. Nancy Kemp Arm down in 4th position in 19 minutes and 47 seconds. So Schmidt first into the bike park, and I suspect she'll be first out onto the 40-kilometer bike course. 2 laps of 20 kilometers each making up the bike course, and it's quite a famous bike course, but a little of that later. So this is the men now. They're on their second lap, and it looks as though Stefan Digne, the Frenchman, is leading with Alexander Metzloff. Thomas Kocher is also there in contention. So that's good to see. Francesco Marco, that Spaniard we saw earlier, is also up there, as is Jan Rahula, the other Czech athlete we saw, and the Dutch pair of Dennis Loos and van der Linden are not that far behind. So the favourites are all bunching towards the head of the men's race, but Bigne is stretching them out with Alexander Metzloff. There we are, the light silvery colour wetsuit we saw in Geneva. The Frenchman, Stefan Bigne, finished 5th in Geneva, and his best performance to date on the Cup is 2nd in Velden. So he's out in 17 minutes and 59 seconds. So what, just over a minute long, quicker than the women. Looks like Thomas Kocher had a bit of a slip on the carpet there. They've carpeted it all the way from the swim exit right up through the bike path. So that's very nice, isn't it? There's Alexander Metzloff, the man from St. Petersburg, but races, of course, for the Moscow club. There's Kocher going through. This looks like Francesco Marco in, there we are, there's the slip and the slide by Kocher. Francesco Marco is in 5th position. Jan Rahula is in, sorry, Marco was in 4th position. Rahula is in 5th position with Dennis Lewis, joint leader at the moment, with Eric van der Linden in 6th. There's Loos just going through the picture. There's van der Linden just at the back of the park. He's in about 12th position at the moment, whereas number 2 is in 12th position. So he's got a bit of work to do, but unfortunately for him, it's very wet and miserable and very, very cold, and he doesn't carry any body fat whatsoever. So I think he's going to really suffer on this bike course. So what are the women doing out onto the bike course? Oh, we've got some more of the men coming out of the water. So we're still in the bike park with the men. Just to remind you, Stefan Bigny, 17 minutes and 59 seconds was his swim split. But we're now going to backtrack to the women. There's Kathleen Schmidt, 19 minutes and 39 seconds was her time, 19:43 for Compagnac. So just as a comparison, Bigny's time was 17:59. So that's at about 1.5 minutes quicker for the men. So it looks as though Kocher is first away. There we are. Well, the Czechs really love that, don't they? There's Stefan Bigny in 2nd place. Metzloff in 3rd position. Looks like Rahula is dressed for winter there in 4th position. And there's Dennis Looser in 5th or 6th position. But this is our lead woman. It's still Kathleen Schmidt. She led that swim with Kompaniec and Petschke and Kemp, and I suspect Kemp will be doing the business fairly quickly. But certainly Kathleen Schmidt looks fairly relaxed. The girl from Wavelung in in Belgium. She like, in fact, Nancy Kemp is a breaststroker in the past. There's Kemp in 2nd position. The 27-year-old from the Principality of Luxembourg, having a great year on the Cup. And she takes the lead. There's a bit of a loop which we couldn't get in to watch, and went over the old French pavé there. And that's where Kent overtook Schmidt. And let's see if Schmidt can respond. But at the moment, Kemp seems to be faring better with the cold, wet, miserable weather, but they've got a bit of a climb now. This is quite a good bike course. Lead man is Stefan Bigny. He's gone to the 4 early on, gone past Thomas Kocher and Metzloff. So Bigny, the Frenchman, hasn't won yet on the Cup. Can he win today? There's Eric van der Linden coming through with Annelia Emerson right behind her. I think she's back in about 6th or 7th position. There's Dennis Looser. You can see it's very slippery underfoot, and they're taking the time. But Jan Rahula there really did take a tight line around the corner. Showed Annelie Emerson and Dennis Looser how to bike around there. Perhaps a little foolish, but anyway, he's still in one piece. Thomas Kocher just behind Dennis Looser. And now we've got this climb, and this is Bigny. He's on the climb. This is quite a famous part of the Czech Republic, because this is part of the Brno motor racing circuit. Been here for many, many years. And today they've got a new course just down the road, but we're actually on the Ode motorcycle circuit. And we're just going around Farini Bend. That's the big peak we're on at the moment, by the way. We do it twice. You can see it's 2 laps. But Farini Bend, because back in, what, 1949, I think it was, Nino Farini was killed here in the Grand Prix. Jasmine Hamill, she's in, what, 3rd position behind Kemp and Schmidt. There's Eric van der Linden. He's, what, in 2nd position for the men at the moment. So now they've gone up the climb, and now it's the descent. It's about a 2-kilometer climb, so it's a bit of a test. There's Kocher going through in, what, 3rd and 4th position. So we've got 2 Czechs together. There's Kocher, and right behind him Rahula, the university champion in Liberec earlier this year, when on the previous day, I think there was a sprint race, and Spencer Smith won the sprint race. But it's still Stefan Bigny, the Frenchman, and you can see the weather's not getting any better. It's got driving rain, very cold, a bit of a wind, so the chill factor's up. Or should I say dropping it down. They're just coming into the end of lap 1. This is Kocher going through. What's he in, about 4th position at the moment. And quite a few people have braved the conditions, and they really are brave. This is van der Linden going through. There's Rahula. So we've got Bigny. Looks like Kocher is 2nd. Van der Linden eases through into 3rd position in front of Rahula. Or does he? No. Rahula responds a little bit. There's Jasmine Hill going through. And Dennis Lew's taking it very, very easily around the bend, isn't he? So now they start the second lap, just 20 kilometers to go on the bike. And then it's the final 10-kilometer run to finish. This is Schmidt and Kemp. So Schmidt had a bit of a response, didn't she? She did respond. So they're just starting the big climb now. Schmidt leads for the woman with Nancy Kemp. Perhaps Kemp's trying to get a bit of some warmth in behind Schmidt. Who knows? Because it really is miserable. Look at it. You can see she's not very warm, is she? So Kemp and Schmidt are having a bit of a battle here. It's good stuff. Well, as they battle on towards the end of the bike, we'll go for a short break. Welcome back to Triathlon on Eurosport. We're at the second race. We're at Brno in the Czech Republic. This is round 10 of the European Triathlon Cup, and with our leader, Stéphane Bignet of France, the 25-year-old, having a good race. He hasn't won a cup race yet, but certainly this woman has. Nancy Kemp, she's leading for the women, and she's still in second position. The men went 6 minutes or so behind the women, and only Bignet has managed to take the lead from Kemp. So Kemp is second overall, but of course leading the woman. Here's the second woman on the climb. This is Kathleen Schmidt from Belgium. She's coming up to the top of the Kurjovici climb. It really is a tough climb as well. And their main problem today is not so much the climb, it's the driving rain and the cold. It really is miserable. I think winter is coming early in the Czech Republic, and it's a shame. We're about 3 hours from Prague, for those of you who want to know exactly where we are. And Brno, I mentioned, is the second largest city. This is Thomas Kocher and Jan Rahula, so we've got two Czechs together. They're battling it out for the Czech honour. In fact, it's also the final of the Czech Cup. There have been, 5 or 6 races in the Czech Cup this year. And this is the last race. So a lot of honours, a lot at stake for not just the European athletes, but also on home soil, the Czech athletes. Looks like Van der Linden's just coming up the other way in fourth position, with Dennis Loos now making a bit of a move. You can see the driving rain there. It really is miserable. There we are. Dennis shouts over. It's not very nice, is it? I wish I was like you with the old umbrella, keeping you warm and dry. But no, they've got to carry on with the business, and the business of the day is finishing this second discipline, the 40-kilometer bike, before they've got the final discipline, the 10-kilometer run. So then they've got a bit of a descent, and it's very treacherous. And Thomas Kocher has come to drift right on the famous Nina Ferrini bend. That famous motorcyclist who was killed back in 1949. Well, luckily Kocher hasn't been killed, but he's certainly got a few road rash, hasn't he? Got the dreaded road rash, the graze of the cycle accident. And it's amazing how you always land on the same spot. If you come off your bike, you always land on the same side, the same spot, whether it be on your thigh, as with Kocher there, or your shoulder. Well, that's pretty brave. There we are. Gets up on his bike. Fortunately, no harm done to his bike. Just dented pride, I think, on home soil, because I think there's a lot at stake for these Czech athletes. They would certainly like to be the first Czech, but at the moment the first Czech is this man. It's Jan Rahula. Well, Rahula's doing the business. The university champion from Liberec earlier this year. Spent a lot of time in the winter down in Australia training. His girlfriend is a physiotherapist and or masseurs, or I think she's a masseur or a physiotherapist, and that's quite handy to have, isn't it? Certainly he'll need some of that after this to warm him up. This is, well, this is actually a Finnish athlete. This is Henry Olander. He's now moved through into third position, and it's good to see the Finns. Of course, we'll be going up to Finland next year for the European Championships in Vuokatti, the European Triathlon Championships. But at the moment, Olander, well, he's closing down on Jan Rahula. There we are, we're back into Brno, and he's gone through into second position. Wow, this is a great ride by Olander. Certainly coming through. They're gradually finding their form on this European Triathlon Cup, but perhaps it's a little late, because we've only got one race after this, the final in Alanya, Turkey, and I think the weather will be a little warmer there, down on the Turkish Riviera. Quite looking forward to that. It's at the same time as the Hawaii Ironman, the same within 3 days of each other, so we've got a lot of action, and you'll be able to see both of those events on Eurosport coming up later in the year. But Stefan Poulet is coming back towards the end of the bike part. This is Jan Rahula in, third position behind Henry Hollander, the Finnish athlete. So it's Binet 1, Hollander 2, and Rahula in third position. There we are. This is the Finnish athlete. It's one of the old cities of Europe, the old trams. This is Binet though, he's back into the transition. Czechs actually call this the depot, I like that, it's very quaint. So 17 minutes 59 for his swim, 1 hour 6 minutes and 56 seconds for his bike ride. Total time 1 hour 24 minutes and 58 seconds for the 25-year-old Frenchman Stéphane Binet. I haven't seen his brother Frank for quite a few years though, since what, 2 or 3 years ago when he won that indoor race at Bercy. And in fact at that time Stefan finished 5th. So there we are, Rahula's just caught up with the Finnish athlete, Hollander. In fact, Hollander has recorded the fastest bike split, 1:06.27. 1 hour, 6 minutes and 27 seconds for Hollander. 1:08.44 was Jan Rahula's time, but that's put him at the top of the Czech rankings, which is good. And I suppose if you can't win the race here, you've certainly got to win the Czech championships. So they're now going out onto their final discipline. Looks like Rahula's got a bit of a road rash as well there, look. So he must have come off. We missed that. I think he hit one of the tram tracks coming into town. So that's a little sore for him. So the Czechs really are going through, battling it away literally today. This is the lead woman though. It's still Nancy Kemp. Nancy Kemp armed. 1 hour 16 minutes and 7 seconds is her bike split. Total race time 1 hour 35 minutes and 54. So she's got about a 30-second buffer at the moment. Look at how cold she is though. She really is frozen. One of the problems is going to be now getting on those shoes. The hands are cold, the feet are cold, they're wet. Here's Kathleen Schmidt coming through in second position, and she's only what, about 27 seconds behind Aunt Kemp. Well, Kemp really is struggling here, isn't she? She really is finding this tough. This reminds me of the World Cup race back a few years ago in Derry, when it was like a tea party. There's Van der Linden going through. It was so cold the women couldn't get their wetsuits off, they couldn't get their bike shoes on. It was pandemonium. Whoa! Looks like Alexander Metzloff's retired. He's had enough. He's going home for an early bath. The women's and the men's rankings after the bike and the swim. Just the final 10-kilometer run, and it's still Stéphane Binet, the Frenchman. Well, he hasn't won yet on the Cup this year. Is it going to be his first victory? 10 kilometers. Got 3 laps of just over 3 kilometers each. This is Hollander in second position, and he's not finding it easy, is he? He's obviously a better biker than a runner. He really is struggling at the moment, and I think he could be under pressure from this gentleman, Jan Rahula, the Czech athlete, who's in second position. He looks much smoother, doesn't he? So though he's got some war wounds, some battle wounds on the side from when he came off his bike, he looks to be running quite comfortable. This is Eric van der Linden down in third position, fourth position should I say, and he's not going to do the double, is he, from Geneva. Annie Emerson, she's down, I think she's down in about the 6th position for the woman at the moment, so she's running quite nicely. And if she can hang in with van der Linden, that'll do a cause no end of good. But it's still Nancy Kemp leading. There she comes. The Member of Parliament, and in fact the Member of Parliament for Sport and Culture is here today from the Czech Republic. He's here watching, and because the Brno have bid for the European Championships for a couple of years hence. I think another couple of cities have applied as well. Oh, Mika Sois, doesn't she look cold? She's leading the championships or the cup with Nancy Kemp at the moment, and she really is dressed for the winter, isn't she? She's got that bike top on. Here's some of the other athletes going through. A lot of the Czech athletes here battling out for the Czech Cup. It really is a city centre ride here. A little confusing going back and forth at times. You can see them going down one side of the picture, coming back up the end. They do a bit of a loop, then come back. And there's a ramp right by the finish area, which they have to negotiate 6 times. So they've got a man-made hill right in the middle of the run course, and that's not too easy, especially as it's very, very wet and slippery underfoot. So they've got to be a little careful as they go through there. There's Jasmine Hamel going through. She's down in 3rd or 4th position, and she's got a bit of a problem. She caught a toe in the shoe, I understand, and dislocated her shoe. Dislocated her toe, so she's running with a dislocated toe. So that must be extremely painful. I suspect it's totally numb and she can't feel a thing. Jan Rahula now, he's up into second position. So the Frenchman leads. Rahula is second position. And we understand that Dennis Loser is pressurizing the Finnish athlete, Henry Olander. Here he is, Dennis Loos, and he's gone through into third position. So Dennis Loos, he really is fighting for his life here, because he knows with a good position here, he can go back to the head of the rankings in front of Erik van der Linden. Well, one of the Czech athletes have got a bit of a problem there. I don't know if that's Czech. I don't think it is Thomas Kocher. It's actually Gabo Barons and the Czech part of the junior team. But it's still Stefan Bignet leading round 10 of the European Triathlon Cup. And he's going to have his first victory. He certainly looks as though he's got quite a gap behind before we come to the second athlete, which is Erik van der Linden, or Jan Rahula, should I say, with Dennis Loos in third position and van der Linden in fourth position. So there we are. Stefan Bignet is going to win round 10 of the European Triathlon Cup here in Brno, the Czech Republic. What a performance. 1 hour, 55 minutes and 57 seconds. He checks his watch.
Oui, beaucoup, parce que je suis sorti premier de l'eau. Et dès le début du vélo, j'ai creusé un écart.
And he talks about his race, and he said he had a pretty good swim, and then took the lead on the bike section. So he was very pleased with that, and he hung on during the run, and he's come home for his first victory here on the European Cup. And in second position, Jan Rahula. Well, there we are. He's coped with everything. He's crashed. He's coped with the weather. And he said he's triathlete to the weather. Well, he said maybe, but I'd had good training, and I just completed the Iron Tour, and that was a race each day. There was 8 races in 10 days, so this race was not too difficult for me. He said, when you won the student or the university championships, the weather was like this today. Are you satisfied with these conditions? And he said, well, it's better than being very hot weather, and being a professional, he said, I've got to be able to compete in the heat as well. 1 kilometer before the end of the bike track, you fell off the bike. What happened? Well, he said, I was too quick when entering the curve. It was a little risky. Well, we should have taken a few risks, didn't we? And he fell off on the wet track. But I got up immediately, so he didn't lose too much time. Well, he certainly didn't do that, did he? And Dennis Loos comes through now to third position. So that means Dennis Loos goes to the head of the rankings with van der Linden, who finishes in fourth position, going into second place. And Stefan Bignet, some consistent racing throughout the year. He moves through now into third position overall on the European Triathlon Cup. Well, there we are. Those are the results. Bignet, Rahula, Loos, and van der Linden down in fourth. And Olander, the Finnish athlete, he held on to fifth position for the best ever ranking of a Finnish athlete this year on the European Triathlon Cup. So that's a good performance by the Finnish athlete. I think we'll see a bit more of him. But for the woman, well, she's led virtually throughout like she did in Geneva. So the second race on the trot on the European Cup for Nancy Kemp-Arndt, the Luxembourg Member of Parliament, 27-year-old from Schlieffern, just outside of the Luxembourg city. Congratulated by the president of the European Triathlon Union, Didier Leninoff. There we are. What a sight that is, isn't it? Both winners together. Second position was Kathleen Schmidt. So that's a great race by Schmidt. She really did go well. And Nancy Kemp stays to the top of the rankings with Mika Soos now in second position. I think Mika Soos is actually going to finish third here behind her fellow countryman. There's Schmidt's mother. There we are. There's a cold, wet, miserable Mika Soos in third position. Well, certainly a little different weather than we had in Geneva, but we had the same result for the women. It was Nancy Kemp. She's done the double. Now she's looking good for overall honours in the 1996 European Triathlon Cup. 640 points she's got now going into the final, with Mika Soos being the closest with 616 behind her. And Maribel Blanco is in third position, Kathleen Schmidt fourth, and Yasmin Hamel, the Austrian champion, down in fourth position. She got her toe put back into place. It was, as I mentioned, dislocated. She finished fourth, so that was a good performance by Hamel. And Brigitte Scheitart, we haven't seen a lot of her. She finished in fifth position. That's the young Czech girl to look out for. For the men, there we are. It was Stefan Bignet taking his first win on the European Cup with Dennis Loos now heading the rankings on 666 points. He's got a substantial lead over Eric van der Linden, who's on 525, and Stefan Bignet now moves into third position. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the European Triathlon Cup. Ian